Hi everyone, I'm going to be making some of my favorite crocheted hats, and I thought I would show you how I like to make these. I'm using Bernat roving for my yarn. I really like this yarn because it's bulky, so it works up quickly, and it's really soft and it's affordable. Start with a slip knot. Now I'm using a 6mm hook, and I'm going to start by chaining 35 stitches. Now that I've finished my chain, I'm going to insert my hook through the second chain from the needle, from the hook, sorry. I'm going to wrap my yarn. I'm going to pull it through once, going to wrap my yarn and pull it through both loops for the single crochet stitch, and continue working down the chain in the same way. If you need a slower demonstration of how to do the single crochet stitch, I have another video up for that goes slower than this. When you reach the end of your first row, you're going to chain one and then turn your work around. Now I'm going to single crochet across this row again, but I'm going to work into the back loops of each stitch. If you look on the top of the stitch, you see each one has two V's. I'm going to go a normal single crochet goes under both of them, like this. What I'm going to do is go under just the back loop, and this will create a ridged effect, much like a ribbing in knit. I'm going to work down the row the same way under just the back loops. When you reach the end of your second row, you're going to chain one and turn your work again. And you can start to see how this side has a depression running along the center, because on the other side you've got a ridge. And as you continue working, you end up with a slight V pattern that resembles a knit rib stitch. Not exactly identical, but I like this a little better for hats because the crochet stitch is very thick and it makes a very, very warm and windproofed hat. So again, on this side, you're going to work into the back loop. Do single crochet and continue working the rest of the pattern the same way. Okay, I finished knitting my 38 rows for my hat, and as you can see, it's making this nice rib type pattern. Now what I'm going to do is fold it over you can fold it with the right sides in or out, it doesn't really matter, because this is pretty reversible. But I'm folding it so that my tail from where I started and the row that I just finished meet on this side. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip stitch up the seam over here to make a tube. So you want to line up the edge of your hat so the stitches are even, and insert the hook. Hope you can see this okay. Insert your hook through the opposite stitch, yarn over, and pull it back through both. This creates your first slip stitch. Continue doing this all the way down the edge of the hat, going through both stitches, yarning over and pulling it back and through all the loops on the hook. So you're going through the next stitch and then the stitch right directly opposite it, yarn over, pull it through, and then pull it through that stitch as well. And this will close up the seam really nicely. I like this better than sewing it because I find with this yarn anyway that I don't see the seam when I'm finished. And get to the end, make sure you catch the last stitches. They're a little bit tighter. Okay, now I'm going to just raise this loop a bit and bring the remainder of my working yarn through that and just pull that tight to secure it. I don't want to trim the remainder of the yarn too short because this particular type of yarn is spun very loosely, and the closer you get to the end the more likely it is to pull apart, and that's a pain in the neck because then I got to go find another ball of gray so I can sew the top together. So I like to give myself lots of room on there. Now before I finish, I'm going to just weave in the tail end down on the end here. So I'm going to use a yarn needle to sew up the top of the hat. So this is where I tighten the yarn, and I'm just going to do like a running stitch through the top. And you can do a few stitches at a time, but I'm working around the camera so it's harder to see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to take it slow and do one at a time. And you don't have to catch every stitch. I usually go about every 3 or 4. This is where normally if I was using a stronger yarn I would cut the string shorter so it wouldn't take so long. But I've learned the hard way that while I love to work with this yarn, if I do that it will break and then I'll be stuck. So otherwise I love this Bernat roving. It's warm and it's really soft. It's not itchy. It's about 20% acrylic, sorry, about 80% acrylic and 20% wool. So you still have to hand wash this. Easy to hand wash because it's not a huge sweater. And crocheting instead of knitting I find is much, much warmer because the stitches are so thick. Each crochet stitch uses more yarn than a knit stitch does. Okay, I finished stitching all the way around and I stopped just before the slip stitch row where I came in before. And now I'm just going to pull on this yarn to gather the top. And I don't want to pull too hard because, like I said, this particular brand of yarn can break pretty easily. Okay, once you get it tight, you're going to want to knot your yarn off. So just pick up one of your stitches, slide your needle underneath it, and pull it tight. Now I'm going to repeat the same thing over again. Now you notice we have a small hole on the top of the hat. This is really easy to clean up. All you do is put your needle through the stitch on this side and go straight across into the matching stitch on the other side. And we're just going to sew that little hole together, and it comes together really, really cleanly. You won't know that it's there. Just give it a gentle pull and come back. Go back across again. Once you finish sewing the top together, I'm going to just one more time knot this. Okay, so I've made a knot to secure that yarn on here, and now I'm just going to weave in some of this tail end. I'm going to bring it down one stitch, pull it through, and just work it in going down the rib a little bit on the back end. Just cut that off. I like to leave just a little bit of it there because when you stretch the hat it'll get pulled back inside and you won't see it. And turn your hat inside out, or right side out I guess I should say. Fold up the cuff. And there you've got your finished hat. And the fabric is reversible so you can wear it either way.